Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 121. We've got a little bit less of a content-heavy chapter this week. It is mostly fighting. We've gotten the start for this Yuji versus Mahito battle, which I am assuming will probably be the climax of the Shibuya incident, unless Gege is going to show Geto versus Mei. And whatever comes from that, I mean, if Gojo comes back and fights Geto, that would probably be it. But there's not really much left to do in Shibuya. Almost everyone is either incapacitated or dead, or just missing in action. So I have a feeling we're definitely getting into the home stretch of this arc, as I think I mentioned last week. Now, this chapter is mostly showing us the growth of Yuji and Mahito. So with Yuji, we see that he's trying to stay calm and not lose his cool because he thinks that's what Nanami would do. So as we know, having negative emotions like anger and disgust, those help strengthen Jujutsu because it's based on negative energy. So while Yuji definitely still has those feelings, he's not losing control because when you're fighting someone as unpredictable as Mahito, that's pretty important. Now, we also got a new move from Yuji, the Taito martial arts Manji Kick. So I actually looked this up, and Taito is an actual martial art from Japan. It's based on, I think, Okinawan karate. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to assume this attack works pretty much just like Divergent Fist, but instead he's using his feet. So it's interesting to see some more moves coming off from Yuji. I don't know if we'll learn about him learning Taito, because it's like an actual school of martial arts, so maybe he did it as like a thing at school or something, I don't know. This certainly seems like it is related to when he was fighting Chozo and started using like all of those kicks and stuff. So maybe we'll learn more about that in the future. I'm not sure if Gege is just going to go with like, oh yeah, Yuji is just like really strong and athletic and, you know, he like learned martial arts at some point, or if he's actually gonna like go in depth with it. I really don't mind either way, because since we already know that Yuji is like really good with combat and stuff, and just like physical activities in general, it's not too surprising that he'd be able to pull some stuff like this. Now, when it comes to Maito, we got a new move out of Mahito, the Soul Multiplicity and Body Repel. So with Soul Multiplicity, he combines two or more souls. He merges them together. And Body Repel is the result of the rejection of the fusion. So souls, it seems, are not meant to be fused together. And doing that causes like this big explosion, I guess. So Mahito has given us a lot of interesting insight into the way that souls work in this universe, and this is just another example of sort of seeing him mess around with the physics of the soul, I guess. Another thing that we see is Yuji pretty much asking Mahito why he messes around with people's lives so often, and how he can do that. And Mahito just sort of gives like this explanation that he doesn't really like contemplate about all of his reasons for killing people. He just kind of does it. And to do this, he turns his hand into Junpei, or something that looks like Junpei, that's begging for help, like Junpei did. And then he just stabs it through the head. And he tells Yuji, like, don't get so upset with it. It's just a curse spouting nonsense. But until Yuji is able to understand that, there's no way he'll be able to beat him. So maybe I'm just really slow here, but I can't really figure out what Mahito is trying to say. If someone could please explain this to me in the comments. I don't know if it's something about Yuji being the vessel for Sukuna, or if it's something about how Mahito is supposed to be a reflection of humans, so they're really the same. I guess it could be something for either of those, but I'm not really sure. I thought the dialogue there was like really vague, and I couldn't quite figure out what he was trying to say. But yeah, that's really most of the meat of this chapter. It's just Mahito in that one scene is being a huge dickhead with that killing Junpei again, sort of. Um, I think I'm able to explain why people like Mahito and Makima are so hated. So I would probably say that Mahito, Makima, and Shigaraki are like easy top 3 villains in Jump right now. I haven't read everything in Jump, so stick with me here. But from what I've read from Jump lately, those are top 3 villains. Um, and there's a big difference between why Shigaraki is a good villain and why Makima and Mahito are great villains. And a big part in that is like sort of how they make you feel. So with Shigaraki has like a very understandable motivation. The entire series has been exposing the errors of the society, and we've seen how that fucks over people like Shigaraki and how it has specifically fucked over Shigaraki. So when he's like doing that whole speech about how the society, the hero society, is all messed up, and this is basically a reckoning, you're like, yeah, I get that. Now with Mahito and Makima, a little less with Makima because we've been getting more into her motivations lately. So I guess a lot of it with Mahito now, but still Makima with all the shit she's been doing, is that there's a difference between an evil person doing like big destructive stuff and individual cruelty. And individual cruelty tends to hit with people much more because, when you think about a bunch of people and something bad happening to them, you just see it as a number. But when it's a person whose like name that you've learned and you've seen them like going through their life and you've learned about their personality, and then this person comes along, this terrible entity like Makima or Mahito, and they just kill them or like ruin their life or something. You're like, wow, you're like a huge piece of shit. Even if Shigaraki has arguably done way more damage than either of them, you hate these people way more than Shigaraki. Just because the cruelty hits on a much more personal level. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that for a second, but that's really all there is left to talk about for this chapter. When it comes to the rest of the Shibuya arc, I'm not really sure if we're going to get Geto versus Meimei. We might. As I mentioned last week, I would sort of get it if she got off screen because, like, Geto's a special grade, and we don't know if there's anything else to that brain thing beyond just using Geto's techniques. And it's really unclear what's going to happen with Gojo by the end of this arc. But getting into the stuff happening after Shibuya, Yuji, while taken over by Sukuna, killed several hundred people and basically vaporized an entire section of Shibuya. They're gonna fucking execute Yuji. You bet they're gonna execute Yuji. Now, if Gojo gets out, Gojo will probably be able to, like, put a stop to that, but there's going to be, like, new scrutiny on Yuji and stuff like that. If Gojo's not out after this arc, we may have something that I just thought of, where Yuji has to basically go on the run from the Jujutsu authorities. And this will give us an opportunity to learn a lot more about the institutions in place in the Jujutsu world, like who's responsible for providing grades for the sorcerers and curses and stuff like that. Stuff that really hasn't been expanded upon as of yet. It's just like this background stuff that we've sort of just accepted as being there so far. We're aware that there is like higher ups that Gojo wants to get rid of, but we haven't really met them yet, other than the principal of Kyoto and Naobito. But that's like the principal of a school and the head of one of the big families. But I'm assuming there are institutions beyond just the big families in the schools. And if we have something like this after Shibuya, we'll be able to learn more about those institutions. And that'll probably be pretty fun. I mean, we're going to have like a 40+ everyone fighting each other arc, and then after that having like a running on the lam arc. That'd be fun. So I guess we'll have to see what happens after that. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I do Jujutsu Kaisen reviews every week. If you enjoy discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or you just enjoy the content I do on this channel, I'd highly advise you check out my Discord server. I have a link to it on my channel. If you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Chainsaw Man, Kengan Omega, and Bleach, I do videos on those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should check out my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.